In the history of the Indian subcontinent, the Gupta Empire stands at a turning point between ancient political fragmentation and a deeply influential classical culture. From the mid-3rd century to the mid-6th century CE, the Gupta dynasty ruled much of northern India and created an imperial order remembered for scholarship, literature, religion, science, art, and administration. Some historians have called this period the Golden Age of India because of its remarkable cultural production. Others question that label, because no empire is golden for everyone, and elite achievements do not automatically describe the lives of ordinary people. But even with that caution, the Gupta era remains one of the most important periods in South Asian history. Its legacy was not only political. It helped define models of kingship, sacred literature, visual art, and learned culture that continued long after the empire itself disappeared. The Gupta Empire began with a ruling dynasty founded by a figure remembered as Gupta. At first, this dynasty was not an all-powerful imperial house. It emerged in a landscape where many regional rulers competed for authority, resources, and legitimacy. The Guptas rose by combining military power with political strategy. Like many pre-modern empires, they did not control every location in the same direct way. Their power depended on core territories, tribute relationships, loyal elites, and subordinate rulers who accepted Gupta supremacy. This gave the empire room to expand across northern India, but it also meant unity depended heavily on strong monarchs and shared prestige. The Gupta achievement was not just conquest. It was the construction of a political center that other rulers had to recognize, negotiate with, or submit to. One of the empire's defining rulers was Samudragupta, whose reign helped turn Gupta power into a major imperial force. He is often remembered as a conqueror, but his importance goes beyond battlefield success. Inscriptions portray him as a ruler who defeated kings, received tribute, and extended Gupta influence across a wide area. These records were designed to praise the monarch, so they should not be read as simple neutral reporting. Still, they reveal the political language of the Gupta court. The ideal king was victorious, generous, cultured, and able to impose order without necessarily annexing every defeated territory. Samudragupta's campaigns created a hierarchy around Gupta authority. Some rulers were absorbed, others paid tribute, and others remained semi-independent while acknowledging Gupta prestige. This flexible imperial model helped the dynasty grow rapidly. Under rulers such as Chandragupta II and Kumaragupta I, Gupta power reached some of its most celebrated heights. These reigns are associated with stability, prosperity, and cultural confidence. Chandragupta II in particular is often linked with a strong court culture and expanding influence. In this world, royal legitimacy was not based only on armies. A successful ruler also needed to support religion, learning, poets, scholars, and artists. Court culture became a political instrument. When a king sponsored literature or religious institutions, he was showing that his rule belonged within a larger cosmic and social order. The result was a form of power that worked through symbols as well as soldiers. Coins, inscriptions, temples, rituals, and patronage all helped communicate that the Gupta monarchs were protectors of prosperity and civilization. The Gupta period is closely associated with the development and preservation of major literary traditions. The Mahabharata and Ramayana, already ancient and layered bodies of story, reached more stable and authoritative forms during this broad era. This does not mean the Guptas invented these epics. Their roots were much older, shaped by oral performance, regional traditions, and earlier composition. But the Gupta age helped create conditions in which such texts could be organized, copied, transmitted, and canonized. The Puranas, long works dealing with mythology, cosmology, genealogies, rituals, and sacred geography, are also thought to have been committed to written form around this period. These texts mattered because they linked local communities to wider religious narratives. They gave people shared stories about gods, kings, time, duty, and the structure of the universe. Literary culture also flourished in more courtly and artistic forms. Kalidasa, one of the most famous Sanskrit poets and dramatists, is associated with the Gupta age and represents the refinement of classical Sanskrit expression. His works are remembered for elegance, emotional subtlety, natural imagery, and an ability to connect human experience with cosmic order. Sanskrit was more than a language of poetry. It became a language of prestige used by courts, scholars, religious authorities, and political elites across large parts of South Asia. By supporting Sanskrit culture, Gupta rulers participated in a wider world of elite communication. This helped their influence travel beyond their immediate political borders. Even after Gupta authority weakened, the prestige of Sanskrit learning and courtly expression remained powerful across later kingdoms. The Gupta age is also remembered for major intellectual achievements in science, mathematics, and astronomy. Aryabhata, one of the great scholars of the period, made important contributions to mathematical and astronomical thought. Varahamihira became known for work that combined astronomy, astrology, and encyclopedic learning. To modern audiences, these fields may seem separate, but in the ancient world they were deeply connected. Astronomy helped determine calendars, ritual timing, agricultural cycles, and royal ceremonies. Mathematics supported calculation, measurement, and prediction. Intellectual prestige also mattered politically, because a court that attracted learned people could present itself as a center of order and knowledge. The Gupta period therefore became a symbol of scholarly ambition, where thinkers were not simply preserving tradition but developing systematic ways to understand the heavens, time, and number. Art from the Gupta period had an influence far beyond its own century. Sculpture, painting, and architecture developed forms that later generations treated as classical standards. Religious images became especially important. Hindu, Buddhist, and Jain figures were represented with refined proportions, calm expressions, and carefully developed iconography. These works were not merely decoration. They shaped how worshippers imagined divine presence, spiritual authority, and sacred beauty. Gupta art is often described as balanced and graceful, but that simplicity hides technical skill. Artists had to combine theology, symbolism, bodily form, and emotional restraint. The result was a visual language that influenced later Indian art and traveled through religious and trade networks into parts of Southeast Asia. Gupta cultural power therefore continued through images as much as through armies. Religion under the Guptas was dominated by strong royal support for Hinduism, and Brahmins flourished within the empire's social and political order. This patronage strengthened Brahmanical institutions, rituals, and textual traditions. Yet the religious landscape was not one-dimensional. Buddhists, Jains, and other communities continued to exist, worship, and participate in intellectual and artistic life. Gupta tolerance should not be confused with modern secularism. The rulers had clear religious preferences, and their support shaped society. But pre-modern tolerance often meant that multiple traditions could operate side by side under a ruler who favored one tradition more than others. This created a complex world of coexistence, competition, debate, and patronage. The Gupta era therefore helped shape Hindu traditions while remaining part of a broader religious environment. Trade played a major role in making the Gupta realm a cultural center. Strong commercial connections linked northern India with other regions of the subcontinent and with wider networks reaching towards Central Asia and Southeast Asia. These networks moved more than luxury goods or everyday commodities. They carried religious stories, artistic styles, scripts, scholarly ideas, and political models. Merchants, monks, diplomats, and travelers all helped spread culture across distance. Because the Gupta Empire occupied important territories in northern India, it became a base from which ideas could radiate outward. Neighboring kingdoms did not simply copy Gupta culture. They adapted what was useful or prestigious into their own local settings. In this way, the Gupta age helped shape a wider Asian cultural world without ruling all of it directly. The phrase Pax Gupta is sometimes used to describe the peace and order associated with the empire at its height. But this idea should be handled carefully. Peace in an empire usually means that the central power is strong enough to reduce large-scale conflict within its core territories, not that violence or hardship disappears. The Gupta order allowed administration, trade, religious patronage, and cultural production to flourish in many places. But it was still an imperial system built on hierarchy, tribute, taxation, and local power relationships. Its stability depended on the ability of rulers to manage elites and defend borders. The achievements of the period are real, but they existed within the political realities of empire. Understanding that balance makes the Gupta period more interesting than a simple Golden Age myth. The decline of the Gupta Empire came from a combination of internal weakness and external pressure. One major problem was the loss of territory and authority to former feudatories and regional powers. The same flexible system that helped the Guptas expand could become dangerous when the center weakened. Local rulers who once served or acknowledged the empire could become independent rivals. At the same time, invasions by Huna peoples from Central Asia, including the Kidarites and Alkan Huns, placed severe pressure on Gupta defenses. These invasions disrupted political stability and damaged imperial prestige. The empire did not collapse in a single moment. It faded as authority fragmented, military pressure increased, and regional kingdoms reasserted themselves across northern India. By the 6th century, Gupta imperial power had largely disappeared, and India was again ruled by numerous regional kingdoms. Yet the significance of the Gupta Empire did not end with its political collapse. Its models of kingship, Sanskrit learning, religious patronage, scientific inquiry, and artistic form continued to influence later societies. The empire mattered because it brought together power and culture in a way that later generations remembered, reused, and reinterpreted. It was not a perfect golden age, and it should not be treated as one. But it was a formative classical age, a period when literature, science, religion, art, and political authority reinforced one another on a grand scale. The Gupta Empire vanished from the map, but its cultural imprint remained part of India's historical memory for centuries. If you found this helpful, please like this video and subscribe for more explainers.